our next speakers, Henrik and Kathy from Queen Mary University London, and in the theme of innovation, they're going to talk about live chat.
Thank you. And good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to this little chat about live chat. My name is Henrik Broger, and I'm the Head of Service Delivery at Queen Mary University of London.
Hi, I'm Kathy, Wheeling Service Desk Manager, and I can't work the clicker. Hang on. There we go. Okay,
That is it.
there
That
we
is
are.
us. Right, so our journey to live chat started on a rainy afternoon, as it is in London. Kathy and I were sitting in our Students' Union cafe and looking around us, seeing a lot of people on their smartphones and their devices, talking to people, tapping away, and we thought, actually, we really are missing a trick here. We've only got, with traditional university, we've got phone, we've got email, we've got walk-in, and we've got a very basic self-service page, is probably what I could call it. But we thought we've got to be able to do a little bit more here. So we thought it's got to be, at least be able to start with something like live chat. It's also about presenting channels that we feel are native to the students, as you've probably seen from the last presentation.
So, over to me. Oh, there we go. So off I go. So to begin, what did I do to begin? So obviously, to start off with, I reached out to colleagues in other higher education institutions, and they were very good to me and very helpful. And the first port of call was Jim Heim at Kent, who was doing chat. And in November of 2017, we went to visit him and his team, and they were very accommodating to us, and it was very useful for me to see how the team were using live chat, how the service desk team were getting on with that. And then in March of 2018, we went to Cardiff. Paul Bailey's team welcomed us there, and in April we went to London Met, and where Anthony Brooms and his team were there also. Very, as I say, very accommodating, very knowledgeable, and very useful for me to see all these frontline services staff and how they were using chat. So we looked at what was out there and what could offer us this chat, what service could offer us the chat. And we were also looking for a new remote support tool. And so I wanted to combine a remote support tool and chat, and it was Bomgar that could do that for us. And interoperability with other services and systems was important. And initially, when I spoke to Bomgar, which is now Beyond Trust, they did say, we use Ivanti, and they did say that it could integrate with Ivanti, but it didn't in the end, but they told us that it would, and so there we go. And so we had to think about our licensing costs and the budget, and we didn't have anything, there was nothing extra for this project. It all had to come from BAU, and so we used the money that we would have for our remote support tool, and that was it. And then we had to think about whether it was going to be a cloud or on-premise, and we went for the cloud option, really just because it was so quick and easy, and then it didn't touch our existing infrastructure, which was useful. There we are. So when I was at London Met, they mentioned that Norman was also offering a live chat service. So for us, that was ideal. It meant that we could offer, as Norman users ourselves, we could then offer the chat as a 24/7 service, which is what we wanted to do. And so same as now, chat and phone, that was great that we could offer them both together. So that was very useful to us to have that information. And the service desk staff, I had to consider the resourcing implications there. But really, because we didn't know what was going to happen when chat went live, how the take-up would be, it was really a suck-it-and-see situation. So we just had to hang on and wait and see what would happen. And then we made a decision to go with Bomgar, which is now Beyond Trust. I can't get my head around that, sorry. And the most unexpected issue we had was that there weren't any issues really. Everybody was happy to get on board with it, and we just went for it. There we go. Over to Henrik.
I think one thing that stood out to me coming from outside the higher education sector is how welcoming and open people were to talk to us. Just to add to Kathy's comment about going out to see people, I really would never hesitate in doing that for anything that you want to do. People are so open, they're so welcoming and want to help you do what you do because they realise it's helped them. And I think that's a real bonus for all of us, and thanks to the ones in the room that welcomed us in that sense. So yeah, we had to get on with the work, really. As Kathy says, this was very much a project that was driven without any funding whatsoever. The business case that was there was a vision that we all had, that this could help us out. So we knew that this was going to have to be achieved without spending anything, apart from, of course, anything we had to spend for licensing. So we began by setting up a little working group, realising that working group was going to be key to get this delivered. We wanted to get all the individuals in the room that could help us drive this through. So we had people from our networking team, we had people from our service management team, and other areas of IT. So we could make the decisions and we could create an implementation plan to take us through this journey. It was quite simple to set something up with Beyond Trust. It's a cloud service, as Kathy says, that's why we went for it, because I think you probably all have the challenges we've got, which is where if you want to do something on-prem, again, it's old hat, but you've got to then set up a server, you've got to get other people involved with it. Going with the cloud service was just going to be so much easier for us. We did some testing to see how that worked, and that was mainly involving making sure that you can connect the cloud service through where you are, whether you're on a Mac, whether you are on a Windows machine, Linux, which we use a lot of. We tested that, all worked fine. We also did a bit of configuration with Beyond Trust. There isn't much you need to configure, in all honesty, but there are a few settings you want to change. For instance, you might want to change your logo on there, some other things. You want to set up backups. You can back up your configuration. One of the important things to us was we also wanted to be able to download the data, which you can. We'll come on to that when we start talking about AI and machine learning. So data to us was really key in that sense. We also configured our service management system. We've got quite an old iteration of Ivanti, and those out there who've got an old version of a service management system probably know what that means. It's a clunky system, but you can still use it to get some basics in there. One of the things we wanted to make sure was that we could do reporting after, so I'll come on to that. So we wanted to be able to pick source, being chats, because we could then see how the service progressed, but also to have canned responses for as we went along. So yeah, thank you. As Kathy mentioned, one of the key things we learnt from visiting and from what we heard was we wanted to make this a 24/7 service. So as with our telephony, which was already 24/7, 365, we wanted to make sure we had a similar service to that. And that's important because of take-up. If you've got a channel people are used to, and then you bring something else in that is maybe only available between, say, 10 o'clock in the morning and 2 in the afternoon, people will generally gravitate towards the channel they know about, and they know it's available. They don't have to think about when it's there. So we really wanted to make sure we could deliver on that. And we did. So thanks to Matt, wherever he is, if he's here today, for helping us integrate that. There's a bit of training involved, as Cassie probably will mention. There was a bit of resistance with service desk staff and what this is going to be doing for them and with them. We wanted to make sure that people knew how this technology was going to work for them, how they were going to interact with it, and how they were going to interact, importantly, with our customers. So when they come through on the phone, as we all know, that is going to be different when they come through on chat. And one of the things that we quickly realised, and what our staff quickly realised, is that people are a lot more factual when they chat. I think we probably all realised that when we were on messaging services, which is actually a really good thing. And that's one of the reasons we've gone with this. When you're on the phone, you do tend to ask questions, so what's the weather like where you are, that sort of thing. You don't generally tend to get that when people type away. They want an answer. So it's a bit of a Q&A scenario. We put a chat button on our intranet. More about that later. We configured our service reporting, so as I mentioned before, it was important for us to be able to pull out what is chat, pull out the kind of questions that we were getting in there. Importantly, what we did with our service management system and with Beyond Trust is we started to think ahead to the next step, which I'll mention right at the end, and putting catchphrases. And those of you who are aware of machine learning will realise that those are quite important. So if we could put in canned answers, if you want, they will be of great help to us when we then start looking at the next step. Yes, top most unexpected issue was the time it took to get that button on our internet. You won't believe it, it literally took months. Because the web team isn't part of IT at Queen Mary, we literally were trying to, first of all, persuade people this is going to help us to help you by giving you questions and answers really quickly. But just getting that button on there, getting it configured in the right way was quite a challenge. But it worked really well, in all honesty. All we really needed to do was just to make sure that the changeovers, those of you who use Norman will know that, you've got your own service. So for us, it's Beyond Trust, and then at a certain time, it then switches over to Norman, which is working seamlessly, and then it switches back onto your own service desk. So yeah, it was a challenge to work with our web team, I'll have to say that.
So going live, so it was Wednesday the 29th of August, and we had a very, very soft launch. It was just the button on our website, and we just thought we'd see how the take-up would be. And really that was to give the team, the service desk team, the chance to feel comfortable, get familiar and feel confident using the chat service themselves. It didn't take long for them to get into the swing of things. And then after that, then we increased comms around it. We used our faculty relationship managers, email straplines, conversations in corridors. Every meeting we went to, we would talk about chat as another means of contacting us, and another 24/7 means, which is really useful. And also we then created some canned replies. Once we started getting a bit of action on the chat, then we would know what were the most popular questions and queries and requests, and then we could create some canned responses for them. We're continually monitoring the service. At the beginning, it was moment by moment I was online. Most of the chats came from me saying, can you see this? Can you see this? And yes, people could see it and get fed up with me asking if I could see it. And some of the team did feel that it was going to be a challenge. Adding an extra channel for contact, I think they did feel that it would ultimately lead to a greater workload, but it hasn't worked out like that, and people are quite confident. It hasn't increased people's queues exponentially. As I was saying, it was a challenge. But the great thing about chat is the feedback. People who use it love it, they really do. And the feedback we get on on the individual staff that they've dealt with as well is very positive. Get loads of great stuff there. So the staff themselves are pleased with that. And the most unexpected issue there is that unfortunately it's taken a while for students and staff to realise that it is an option for them, and the comms are continually going out there. But again, we're trying more and more different communication channels. But yes, that's the thing. It's not overused, shall we say? Yes.
Yeah, so as you probably see from the last presentation, we've got AI waiting for us next. So as we went through the implementation of live chat, we did look ahead, realising that we wanted to do an AI element once this is all over and done with, and we've done the live chat bit. So we are looking at this as a natural progression of the service, and I do appreciate that to many of us, the whole idea of AI has become a bit of a sonic drill, but I don't think you can overlook the fact that it is there and it is coming, and it's something that we just can't avoid in what we're doing. We did the same as we did for the live chat. We've set up a little working group. This time, slightly different. So we've mainly got people from within my own team working on this. Again, there's no funds for this. We're doing this initiative on the back of a vision that this will help us out get what we do, or do what we do better. So that's really important to get that across, that it's the idea of having a can-do team, a team that's willing and understands what we're trying to achieve with this. That's how you get the work done, especially if you've got no budget, I should say. So we are exploring what live chat can do at the moment, and what that brings in is those canned answers into what we can do with our AI chat, because that can drive us through with the automated responses. So we've created a list of top 10, if you want, question and answers, partially driven by that can give us a kind of template of basic questions that we will get from our students. One thing I meant to mention about the group that we've set up is this time we've also involved academic involvement. So we've got one of our lecturers from the School of Computing Science involved, and we will also be getting some students involved. So it's great to see in the last presentation how they're also involving students. I think they're such a great resource, and interestingly enough, they want to contribute. So we've actually got a couple of PhD students that want to come along and write part of their thesis based on the work we're undertaking next. So to me, that's a really great way of not only getting something for us, as in delivering something, but also giving something back. And I think that goes back to what a university is about. It is about the learning experience. So I think it's really important when we do these things. Don't see yourself as a silo. Think about ways that you could potentially do something, not just necessarily with the academic part and with our students, but also the rest of your professional services element. So I've got people who I'm now talking to about what they want to do with AI. So I'm hoping that on the back of what we're doing, we can create a template we can then offer to our own departments within, whether it be in HR, whether it be in advice and counselling, so on and so forth. And actually, advice and counselling touches on a really important point of what we are doing here, which is to make sure that we are GDPR compliant. So we had started out a little bit with Google's Dialogflow, but after that question, we really had to think about where is our data going to be stored for that, and we've actually now settled on going with Microsoft, and I must say they've been a great help to us for this project. There's things you can switch on, there's things you can do with the tool, which they've been excellent at helping us out with. We've identified the simplest requests, and what we're doing now is we're using the Q&A maker that Microsoft have got to create that very basic FAQ bot. So it is a question answer type scenario, but we also realise you've got to start somewhere. And again, if you've got no funding, I think that's a great way to start. The next thing we want to look at as well is how we link that in to our live chat. I had the challenge, you could put it as well, of trying out the Amazon chat in the last couple of weeks. It was a great experience, don't get me wrong, but one of the times it really got me in a loop with all the almost canned answers they wanted me, or canned questions they wanted me to ask. And there was no option to talk to an agent. And I think it's really important to remember there is still a human being behind all this that sits there and wants an answer. And you might need to think about ways out to give them another human to talk to if they really don't find that that is the useful way of getting the answer responded to. There is more work to do, but again, it's about that vision. It's about driving through some timescales. So we are hoping that we'll have our small FAQ bot ready, hopefully, if not for the start of term this year, then certainly for around Christmas time. And it'll probably be a soft launch as well. So, over to you. We think it's really easy. It was for us. I can imagine that you might come across different obstacles that we've come across in that sense. But to us, by picking a cloud service, by importantly getting a team behind you that you can really deliver on the vision and making sure that they understand what you're trying to deliver, you can do it as well in that sense. And also prepare for the future. Look ahead, see what's coming. There's a lot of changes happening in this marketplace. I can say that from having been involved with this for the past year. You're seeing a lot of different players come onto the market. Believe me, there are a lot of expensive solutions out there that purport to divide or provide you with what you want out of the box, this and that. Personally, I think it's a journey that's worth undertaking and worth getting involved with right from the start, doing it in parts at least yourself, because you learn so much from it. And I think, as probably we'll come to in the next couple of days, there is also an ethical and a sociological element here that we need to think about when we do these things. There's the impact on staff, as Kathy's mentioned, but also about how we use AI and make sure that it delivers for us, but also for the other end, and that we're ethical about the use of it. So thank you. Over to you. Any questions? It's an interesting one.
Yeah. At the moment, it's currently more staff that are using it. Yes, it's.
And in fact, that's probably partly down to the fact it's mainly on our intranet, so the students don't necessarily see it. I am trying to get it on our Campus M app, but that's taking a long time as well.
Hi, yeah. Did you see the use of other communications channel dropping in line with the use of chat?
I think that's quite an interesting question, because I don't think we necessarily have. I think they just see it as another way of getting in contact with us. One of the benefits of using live chat when you compare it with telephony is that one person, one phone call, but you can have up to 5 chats with Beyond Trust for one individual. So not only are we driving some efficiencies through Kathy's team, but we are able to service more. So I think if anything, we're probably seeing the same and perhaps a little bit more, because people see it. People who don't want to pick up the phone, perhaps don't want to email, they then see that as another beneficial channel.
But you're saying workload isn't going up?
Workload isn't going up because we're able to service more in that. So in terms of resourcing, we're actually able to service more people, because when you chat, you tend to be more transactional, if that makes sense. So we cut down a little bit on the chit-chat.
Are your staff able to handle this? I'd be quite freaked out trying to talk to 5 different people.
That is how it's configured, that they can, but that would be rare.
Okay.
That would be very rare for them to be speaking to five
So
at once. As I said, the take-up hasn't been that high that they would be talking to that number. Yeah.
Do you feel like you might get to a stage where you need to have extra staff to man it?
Not yet. No, it hasn't felt like that. It hasn't felt like that at all. No one is complaining about chat. as a channel being too much to handle at the moment. Yeah.
Thank you.
I think it is a really interesting question when you start talking about resourcing, and it has been part of the driver for this, that we wanted to look at more efficient ways of doing what we're doing now. So as I just mentioned, the fact you can get one analyst to have 3 concurrent chats as opposed to 1 phone call will hopefully make us a little bit more effective at what we're doing, but also hopefully we're all under cost pressures. We certainly know, and that's not going to go away. So hopefully we can still retain the same staff and at least deliver a more efficient service without seeing a squeeze in some shape or form.
Hi, Henrik. I had a couple of questions, but one was answered earlier. So, is it just for current students and staff or potential students as well? Or is it because it's on the internet, it won't be catered for them?
So it is internal at the moment,
Right.
but it's a good question. We should be reaching out to a wider audience.
Right.
I think that comes if we start to look into the AI element and involving other departments. That's very much something that I feel is on the roadmap for us. We're trying to do this, or we are doing this for us in IT, but I do see something we can go on with in the future with other departments. In fact, it's interesting because I sit on the Clearing and Confirmation Committee at Queen Mary, and one of the things we talked about, probably a little bit late in the stage, that we would introduce an element of live chat as well for them, but that might be for next.
So that was my final question. If you're doing this in IT, has any other department seen this and
They have.
thought, actually, that's really good, we'd like to use
Yes,
that? If so,
absolutely,
which
yeah.
departments?
Yeah, in 2 ways actually. One of our departments, I believe it's our events team, have actually done their own thing. So somebody internally has picked out a service that they found somewhere on the internet, there's plenty of them, and done their own little Q&A bot. I think that's great, but I think this is where we've got to realise who we are in IT and what we are going to be in the next 3 to 5 years. We need to be seen as an enabler, and to do that, we do need to look at technology and what we can do, not just for ourselves, but what we can potentially do for the university as such. So that's very much what we're looking at, not just the live chat, but also anything we do beyond now. I'm looking at the Q&A maker as a tool that we can potentially sell it as I'm not saying sell in the sense that they're going to have to buy it from us, but it will be something we can give as a framework to other departments to say, if you want to do this, all you need to do is set a bit of resource aside to program in your questions and your answers, and then you can have something that IT have enabled you to do. So we start driving the same service across a university, and then hopefully something better from there.
Have you thought about using the scripts, the recordings from the live chat to feed into the AI chat?
I love that question. Very much so. That's why we've devised a lot of canned answers, because that's exactly what we could use that for. You can start to see if some canned answers are used a lot, or canned questions as well. People asking the same thing, because that can, not only can it drive what the Q&A maker will be responding to, but if you start looking into machine learning, that will really help that. So that's something we're talking to our academic colleagues about, is the whole machine element of it, and they are really interested to see what we're getting out of that. Anyone else?
Are you tracking these incidents or service requests inside your ticketing system?
Yes, we are. Yeah.
So how do you do it? Are you just copy and pasting the conversation into a ticket?
We are having to, at the moment, as Kathy said, we thought there was going to be an API that could link in with Ivanti. It turns out it isn't there for our rather old version of Ivanti. We are actually looking at a new service management system, so with newer versions you get that kind of thing anyway. But yes, there is ability to do that, but probably no more with newer versions of the same software. It would have been great, but what we're doing is now we just do a copy and paste. So we are tracking it, yes.
When it comes to your staff, have they had any concerns around having the right skill set for being able to handle chat as an interaction or have they been quite comfortable with that new way of handling calls?
Yeah, I think the majority were quite comfortable handling calls that way, and initially there were a few who had reservations, and no one was forced to take chats, and so I think once people saw how simple it was, then that allayed their fears, and everybody takes the chats now. It's not an issue.
Great, thank you.
I think it's really interesting when we started talking to staff about doing live chat. There are some of us, and we'll see that when we're on our phone, some of us like to text a lot, message a lot, and others are more vocal in that sense. And it was the same thing we had with our staff, and I think Kathy did exactly the right thing by being sensitive to that. So creating a rota by which the people who were native to doing something with chat, they could take the chats. And again, it's about driving that coalition of a winning team, if you want. So the ones that really like doing it, why not let them do it and do really well with that, and then let the ones that are happy answering the telephones in the old-fashioned manner, let them do just that. I think that way you get the best of both worlds, rather than forcing everyone down, you should do this and you should do that as well. So listening to your staff, I think, is really important there.
Quick question from here. We're going to go live with Chat at Aberdeen in 3 or 4 weeks' time, we think.
Good luck.
With very little planning. Are people choosing to ask different types of question via chat? Or is it just the same range of questions you'd get in person, by phone, by email?
Are you talking the AI element? Or?
No, there was
the
the
live?
person-to-person chat.
We've not, go on.
No, I've had a look at this. It's basically the same questions, really. There hasn't, no. It's more often than not the same questions that you would get over the phone. There are some randoms in there, but you might generally get that over the phone anyway. Yes. So.
Okay. Well, we're going to make it live to external people as well as our students, so we're just going to suck it and see.
Yes, interesting.
We might switch it off if it was too much, though.
Oh no. Let us know how you get on.
Good luck with it. Yeah, let's hear how you get on with it. But yeah, I think it is interesting because it does drive what the other questions has been. What you're getting on the live chat is very much what you would get on the phone. But it's because we're recording it and because we're getting those canned answers out of it, or we're putting canned answers in, it can help us drive the development of the next step, which is going to be AI. So I would very much suggest, if you're going to do that, think about the questions that you're getting on the phone now, because you can almost guarantee you're going to need those types of answers. So you can pre-script them depending on what your tool is. And then all the analyst has to do is, so you've got get the question coming in, forgot my password, usual one, and then you have the canned answer, yeah, sorry to hear you've lost your password, please click on this link, that will allow you to reset your password tool, and then you've already got a level of automation in there, fine, with a bit of human endeavour in it as well, but you're on the track if you want. But good luck with it. Any other questions? Good. Thank you.